All right, today, I'll tell you all how my wedding came to a sudden stop when I read my vows. So, my fiancé and I met through coworkers in a group setting. We had a friend named David, who happened to be my best friend. It was great that he got along well with the girl I started dating and later proposed to. So, I asked him to be my best man at the wedding. My fiancé was really happy when she found out and thought it was a perfect choice. I had a slight suspicion about her excitement, but since she was also friends with him, I didn't think much of it. Now, fast forward to the week before the wedding. My soon-to-be bride seemed really excited and was on her phone a lot. I assumed she was just busy with wedding planning. She would stop and ask me about minor decisions, and I didn't mind as long as it made her happy. But now, knowing what I know, I feel like she might have made up things to keep me from suspecting she was communicating with another man, my best man to be precise. We had our bachelor parties on the same night, which I thought was cool. However, I was really disappointed when my best man called me to say he couldn't make it to the party he had planned for me. He told me his mother was unexpectedly in the hospital and he needed to be with her. You know, I really should have given him the benefit of the doubt, right? I feel so bad now for being heartless and suspecting him. Anyway, that night I had a bunch of friends with me. We're an active bunch, so before heading to an upscale lounge downtown, we played some basketball outside and then cleaned up nicely. I was feeling like a king, and I hoped my fiancé felt the same way. It's interesting because at that point, we were already living together, but we decided to wait until after the wedding for closeness. Let me tell you, it was tougher than I expected. We took turns sleeping on the pull-out bed in the living room each night. When I got back home after the party, my fiancé was already asleep in our bed, looking like an angel who had a great time. I tucked her in, but as I glanced around, I noticed a shiny gold cufflink on the floor by the bed. It caught my attention because my woman didn't have any cufflinks, and I only had one pair that looked different from the one I found. That got me thinking, could this mean another guy was in our bedroom? I started rubbing my face and neck in frustration. It was stressing me out. And right at that moment, my fiancé's phone buzzed. It was set to vibrate, but I could hear it on the nightstand. So I took a peek at her messages, and one conversation with my best man stood out to me. All right, so the most recent text I saw from him was sent 4 hours ago at 9 p.m. As I kept scrolling up, I realized she invited him to her bachelorette party, even though that's not how things usually go. But it got worse when I saw their earlier messages. She told him that tonight was going to be their night because the next day she would be with me. He asked if he could have her again sometime, and she kind of teased him, saying he might if he tempted her enough. And then there were messages from months ago, where they went from being just friends to getting flirty. He started asking about her body, and she sent him pictures. They even made plans to hang out one day when I thought she was at work. Later, he messaged her asking if they should have done that, and she replied saying she was sure about it. In just 1 hour, I went from being happy about getting married to feeling heartbroken and wanting revenge. I took 6 screenshots of the worst messages they exchanged, and I planned to read them during the vows. It was going to be awful, just like what she did to me. I deleted all evidence of collecting those messages and then took some NyQuil to knock myself out. The next morning, she was already gone. She left me a handwritten note saying she left early to get her hair and makeup done, but I knew what was really going on. Picture this. You're all dressed up, excited for a great day, and then someone drops a bombshell, calling you a cheater in front of everyone. What a way to ruin things, right? At that moment, I was feeling bitter. I didn't miss her or want her to apologize. I was done with her because I couldn't believe how much I loved her while she had someone else on the side. I put in so much effort to look good, smelling great, and my hair was on point. Part of me felt like it was pointless, but I convinced myself it was still worth it. I thought about telling my dad what I had planned to do, but I didn't want him to talk me out of it or warn others. Just then, my best friend texted me, asking if I was heading to the venue. When I got there, he greeted me outside, looking all sharp. But I had one thing on my mind: cufflinks. As a bit of a gamble, I pretended to notice he was missing one, even though I couldn't really tell. He was taken aback, and I could see he felt embarrassed. He said he must have lost it somewhere, that it got caught on something. I asked to take a close look at the one he had, in case I somehow found its match. His heart was pounding, and he was sweating like crazy. It was so entertaining to see him like that, but I acted clueless about it all. So, he showed me the cufflink, and guess what? It was an exact match to the one I had in my pocket. In that moment, I looked at him dead serious for a few painful seconds. I was trying my best not to scream or punch him. He could tell something was up and asked if I was all right. I snapped out of it and put on a fake smile, telling him that everything was fine because, hey, I was getting married today, right? Then I smacked him hard on the back, making him jump a bit. After some mind-numbing mingling and the grand procession, I walked into the venue, but I couldn't help but think that I never wanted a traditional wedding again. It all felt so dumb and meaningless. And just when my almost wife walked down the aisle, looking stunning as ever, all those memories of how we met and our time together flooded my mind. It was so damn unfair, and I couldn't hold back my tears. People around me noticed that these weren't happy tears. I was devastated. I managed to keep it together until the celebrant asked if I wanted to read my vows. That was the moment. I started reading messages between James and my fiancée, mentioning the date and time of each one. At first, people were probably wondering what I was up to, but as they listened, they realized these were flirty messages, not something they'd be proud of. Things got pretty awkward as they started to fidget uncomfortably and look around, realizing that everyone in the building was staring at them. My bride asked what I was doing and what I was reading on my phone. When I got another text, she told me to stop, but then I went ahead and read those really inappropriate messages out loud. He was saying some explicit stuff about wanting to be with her again, and she was inviting him over because I had left the house. As I read those messages, people started whispering and talking among themselves, and my fiancée tried to snatch my phone from me. My best man suddenly walked out, followed by 5 of my groomsmen, and there I was, shouting that I had pictures and videos of the messages they had sent each other, offering to share them with anyone interested. That made some folks get up and leave. The celebrant had the nerve to ask if we were still going to get married, and I couldn't help but laugh loudly and sarcastically. My ex was now on her knees, crying in her white dress at the altar. Her bridesmaids were clueless, just standing there frozen. Maybe some of them knew about her affair with him or saw them being all flirty. It was satisfying to see that no one rushed to console her. I had enough of the whole drama at this point. My head was throbbing from it all. I stepped outside to check on my best man. Turns out, he was cornered by those 5 guys, yelling and screaming at him in disbelief for betraying me like that. At that moment, I was just done with it all. My head was pounding, and I had enough of the whole mess. I got the revenge I wanted, and all I wanted to do now was take a nap. I told those guys to back off and let my best man go, saying that keeping him here wouldn't help anything. As they stepped back, my almost bride came running out of the venue, being chased by her bridesmaids who were giving her a hard time and calling her terrible names. She ran behind my best man's car for about 10 yards before he saw her in the mirror and stopped. She got in, and they drove off. I turned around and saw a bunch of our wedding guests watching the whole scene. It was like they were in some grief counseling session, offering me hugs and words of advice. It was weird, but at least they were there for me. And well, those people weren't her friends anymore. They both lost the support and contact they used to have from our circle of family and friends. They ended up moving out of state together, but their relationship didn't last long. They lived together for just a year before my ex moved back in with her disappointed and critical parents. What a waste of time it all was. After all this mess, she had the audacity to ask me out again, and I just called her crazy. As for my best friend, he never reached out, but honestly, that's fine. I can't be friends with him anymore anyway. Luckily, my friends and family were there for me, never letting me give up hope or get too down. I haven't started dating again yet, but I have my eye on a good girl I'm thinking of asking out. It's crazy to think that someone would be committed to only me, but my ex planted a seed of doubt in my mind. So, now I take my time getting close to people. I ask them anything I want to know and share my past experiences with them so they understand where I'm coming from. Second story. My wife and I had been married for 10 years. Our anniversary party was approaching, and I couldn't believe how lucky I was to have found someone to be with for so long. We knew everything about each other and were best friends. We believed our zodiac signs were soulmates, and maybe that's why our relationship was so strong. I did notice that her sign was associated with cheating, but I ignored that and trusted her for the past 10 years. We had a daughter 3 years into our marriage. My wife worked in the same career all those years, and she was about to get her biggest raise right before our planned summer family vacation. It really felt like I had found true love, and I thought she would always be there for me. The night she got home after getting her raise, she seemed flustered and blown away by the good news, but there was something in her expression that made me think she was worried about something else. I asked if she was having trouble believing her own success, and she forced a laugh, saying, "Yeah." But I could tell she wasn't convincing me. I sensed that something else was going on, but when I tried to ask, she brushed it off and said she was fine, just pleasantly surprised. Cheating didn't even cross my mind at that point. Then, before she went into our bedroom, she said something weird about her boss being incredible and how lucky she was. He really likes her a lot, and that caught me off guard. It sounded strange, and I think she realized she slipped up saying it like that. The next day was our anniversary party. As we were getting ready, she got a phone call from her boss. She excused herself to take the call in her office, something she usually did to jot down notes for later. Little did she know, I sneaked up close to the door to eavesdrop on their conversation. At first, she thanked him again for the raise, but then things got hush-hush. She whispered how glad she was to thank him properly, calling him amazing, and said she wanted to be with him again. Then she asked him about security cameras in his office, making sure they wouldn't be caught doing whatever they were doing, or they'd be fired. It was all becoming clear in my mind. I felt like bursting into the room and telling her I overheard everything, but instead, I decided to make an announcement at our anniversary party. I needed to do something that would push me to confront her and go through with a divorce. I was pretty certain she just confessed out loud to sleeping with her boss in his office. I was frozen outside the door, waiting for her to come out. She seemed really worried when she saw me standing so close. Trying to act like everything was okay, I forced on a fake smile. She asked if I was ready, and we left. I felt like a zombie, and she was restless, lighting a cigarette, because she gets that way when she's stressed out. During the drive, she tried asking again if I was okay, and I knew she wanted to know if I heard her conversation. We arrived at the venue, and I turned to her saying, "Let's go celebrate our 10-year marriage, wife." My voice sounded robotic, lacking any anger. She knew I overheard them, but she couldn't bring herself to talk to me about it. Inside, she sat there sweating, while I took my time to calmly greet our friends and family, pretending everything was fine. Our 7-year-old daughter was there too, as my parents had given us some time alone for our anniversary. Seeing all our loved ones and our daughter made my wife start itching and looking really uncomfortable. Her face turned red, and people started noticing, circling around her and saying she didn't look well. Even though she insisted she was fine, it was obvious to everyone that she was sweating like crazy. I saw this as my chance to speak up. I raised my voice and told everyone that my wife was having an affair with her boss. Everyone was shocked, and she ended up fainting. Thankfully, our family and friends weren't heartless, and they rushed to help her by fanning her and using a cold cloth on her forehead, the old-fashioned way, I guess. When she came to, she looked so ashamed and couldn't say much. She finally managed to say she wanted to go home, and I asked which home she meant. She broke down in tears and ran to the bathroom. I thanked everyone for coming, and then took my daughter home with me. We went to bed, and my wife tried calling a few times. A couple of other people called too, but I was already asleep and didn't hear any of it. I felt relieved that I found out the truth and followed through with kicking her out. Later on, I learned that one of my wife's cousins let her stay at their house, but that wasn't all that was going to change. I decided to email their company's HR department about what had happened. A week later, they got back to me, thanking me for the information and letting me know that they took appropriate action. After that, my wife called me. She started by calling me a low slime bag for ruining both her and her boss's careers that they had worked towards their whole lives. I called her a low slime bag for ruining our marriage after I put in 10 hard years for her and our daughter. How could she do that and still expect our daughter to look up to her as a mother? She didn't reach out to me until visitation with our daughter started after the divorce. But you know what? I've already found a woman who has her own daughter and does things for me that my ex would never have even considered. It's bittersweet, though. because I realize I wasted a lot of time trusting her. Third story. I guess I should call him my ex-best friend now, but it's tough to accept that our friendship is over just like that. We spent so many years building a strong bond, and now it's all turned to dust. We've known each other since high school, about 15 years ago. He was like a brother to me, and even like a son to my parents. We practically lived at each other's houses back then, and our families were really close. We went on trips together and had so many memorable experiences. He was the best man at my wedding, and I was supposed to be his best man at his wedding too. We've been through a lot together, helping each other out in tough times, and having deep conversations about life, love, and everything else. He was always there for me when I needed him, giving me solid advice and being a true friend. It's hard to put into words how much it hurts to lose him because he was such a significant part of my life. Losing him might be just as painful as losing my wife. It's a huge blow to lose someone who was always there for me and who I considered a true friend, only to find out he betrayed me like this. I've been married to my wife for almost 5 years, but we've been together for 7. I still remember the day we first met. It was love at first sight. She was absolutely stunning with her piercing blue eyes and infectious laugh. I was surprised when she agreed to go out with me because I thought she was out of my league. But as we got to know each other, I fell even more in love with her. She had this incredible passion for life and helping others. Her kindness and warmth towards everyone just made me love her even more. Being married to her was amazing, and I always felt like our marriage was more than just good. It was great. I made sure not to let myself go as a husband. I took care of myself and ate well. I never forgot our anniversaries and special dates. When she spoke to me, I genuinely listened and paid attention. I took a real interest in her life because she was important to me. But at the same time, I gave her space and didn't become too needy or clingy. I pulled my weight around the house, cleaning just as much as she did. Our bed life seemed great too, as far as I could tell. I loved her and cared for her the way a husband should, always showing her how much she was appreciated. I even made an effort to keep dating her after we got married. I can honestly say I never took her for granted. But despite all of that, I still find myself wondering what went wrong. I've asked myself over and over if there was something else I could have done. Did I do too much? Did she think I was a pushover? Did she lose respect for me? It's hard to figure out what happened. I'm not saying our marriage was flawless. We did have arguments, but they were never serious ones. The trouble began when my best friend broke up with his girlfriend. He took it pretty hard and was feeling upset. I talked to him about it, but then my wife asked if I'd mind if she went out for a coffee with him to talk and give him a woman's perspective. I told her it was okay with me. After all, she and my best friend were also friends. We used to do couples trips with him and his girlfriend, and they'd hung out together a lot because he was always around me. At that time, I didn't think anything of it because their friendship seemed totally appropriate. I do remember him complimenting my wife's looks when we first started dating and got married, but it was nothing more than that. There were no inappropriate jokes or anything like that. My wife might have said he was good-looking at some point, but it didn't raise any red flags for me. Even now, when I think about it, I still don't see any signs that they could be more than friends. When my wife returned from the coffee meeting, she seemed a bit off. She was really angry with his ex and said he deserved better. I tried to console her, saying he's young and will heal with time, but she seemed really upset by that. She insisted he needed time, and any girl who ends up with him would be really lucky, and his ex was foolish for leaving him. I might not remember every detail of that conversation, but the main idea was that my wife was being vague and not giving many specifics. However, it didn't seem strange to me back then. I thought she was just being protective of my friend, which is how I would have acted as well since he's my buddy. After that night, my wife's behavior started getting odd. She wasn't doing anything overtly suspicious, but she became vague about her plans. When she said she was going to see a friend or run an errand, she wouldn't provide many details. I'm not a controlling person, and she had never given me a reason to doubt her, so I didn't make a big deal out of it. At the time, it didn't strike me as strange. My friend was acting weird too, but I attributed it to his recent breakup and feeling down. I would invite him to hang out, but he kept turning me down, which was unusual. He never gave a specific reason, just said he was busy. I saw less and less of him, and when we did meet, he seemed different. It's hard to describe, but he didn't seem as comfortable as before. One day, he messaged me asking to visit his house, saying he needed to talk and get some things off his chest. I went over there without suspecting anything. I knocked on the door and he answered. I tried to make some light conversation and jokes, but he completely ignored me. He then asked me to go into the living room, and there I found my wife sitting on his couch. At that moment, I may not have fully realized what was going on, but a sense of dread started creeping over me. As soon as I walked in, she started crying, and he wasted no time telling me that there was no easy way to say it. They were in love and wanted to be together. I was completely shocked and felt like I wasn't even present in that moment. When I finally started to gather myself, they both tried to apologize, saying they still loved me and regretted what happened. They insisted it was an emotional affair that just happened, not something they planned. They knew they were wrong, but their feelings for each other couldn't be ignored. They promised nothing physical had occurred between them. I don't know if that's true or not, and honestly, I'm not sure it even matters anymore. And that's where we stand now. Since that day, I've received numerous texts from both of them, filled with apologies. My wife has been asking if I'm okay and assuring me that she still cares for me. But I mostly ignore those messages now, and they've become less frequent. She decided to move out of our house, and I didn't bother asking where she was going. Later, a friend of mine revealed that she moved in with my former friend as soon as she left. That was just a few months ago. A few days back, she stopped by the house to pick up some things. I tried to avoid her, but she asked if she could talk to me for a moment. She then told me that she and my former friend are trying to have a baby together. She wanted to give me a heads up so we can handle it as we go through our divorce. She felt it was important to tell me herself because I deserved to know. It really hurt to hear how quickly she's moving on. We had plans to have kids together, but she wanted to wait until she turned 30. Now he's going to be the one to father her children, and I have to witness it. I'm here seeking any advice you can give me. I don't know how to cope with her getting pregnant. I feel like it'll be a constant source of pain once it happens, and I'm so jealous of him because he's living the life I wanted with her. I also know that her pregnancy means it's really the end for us. There won't be any chance of reconciling after that. I've thought about suggesting counseling, but I doubt she'd be interested since she's set on being with him. I also don't know how to process all of this. I can't wrap my head around how they both did this, or how I didn't see it coming. I don't understand why she left when we seemed happy. It's making me question everything. If you can't trust your wife and best friend, and even a marriage that you worked hard on doesn't last, it feels like nothing is real, and life is just a big lie. Life can be so unfair sometimes. The past few days have surprisingly been better for me since my wife left. I'm starting to think about what the future holds. I don't have much of an update, but I wanted to keep you all informed about a few things. I've decided to reach out to my former friend's ex and hear her side of the breakup. Maybe I'll find out something useful, maybe not, but I feel like I should try. I talked to one attorney, but I need to get serious about finding a good lawyer. Next week, I'll start searching more actively. Thankfully, my friends and family have given me some recommendations to consider. I don't know exactly when, but I'm pretty sure I'll start counseling soon. My mental state is not in a good place right now, and I know I need professional help to get through this. I'm thinking about writing to my wife and ex-friend. Some of you asked why I didn't confront him when they told me about their affair. It bothered me because I realized I never expressed how much they hurt me and how I feel. They need to know even if they don't care. Many of you gave suggestions on how to cope with the situation. I'm going to make some changes around the house to create a more comfortable environment until I can move out. I'll also keep myself busy, but the hardest part so far has been the nights when I'm alone and everything gets quiet, like right now. Update. A lot of you suggested that I should contact my ex-friend's ex-girlfriend, let's call her EF for convenience, to see if she knew anything about his affair with my wife. I did reach out to her, but she confirmed EF's story about the reasons for their breakup. I asked if she noticed anything strange or had any suspicions of him being involved with another woman before they split, and she said she had no reason to suspect anything. I believe her because she seemed genuinely shocked that they ended up together, and I don't think she has any reason to lie to me. In my previous post, I mentioned writing a letter to my EF and wife for closure. Many of you advised against it, and I decided to follow that advice. I wrote the letter for myself, but I didn't send it. I think you guys were right that they wouldn't care anyway, so there was no point in sending it. A few weeks ago, I finally chose an attorney to represent me. He was recommended to me, and I trusted him to protect my interests and ensure a fair outcome in the divorce. Last week, I officially filed for divorce. It was a tough day, but I knew it was necessary. There's still a part of me that daydreams about her coming back and admitting her mistake, but I know that's not realistic. I can't base my life on a fantasy that will never come true. I felt a bit better leading up to filing for divorce, but the actual filing took away that boost, and I've been feeling more depressed again. I considered personal counseling as you guys suggested, but I decided it's not the best time for it. Luckily, I started a new project at work, and with the changes I've made in my life, I've been keeping busy, which helps. It might sound crazy, but there's a part of me that doesn't really want to feel better. I feel like this sadness is natural when a marriage is ending. Regarding the alienation of affection suit, I decided not to pursue it. Even though many of you wanted me to, my attorney explained it wouldn't be easy, and there are no guarantees. Besides, I don't care about the money. Even if I won, it wouldn't change anything. My main goal now is to wrap this up as soon as possible so I can move away and start over. The only other interesting thing is that after my wife got her papers, she contacted me asking to meet and talk. I haven't responded, and I'm not sure if I will. I don't think there's anything left for us to say to each other, and I doubt there's anything she could tell me that I want to hear. In terms of what I've been up to, I've been running more, doing some reading, trying out yoga and meditation. Yoga was cool, but meditation wasn't really my thing. Work has kept me busy, which is a good distraction. I considered learning French, but for now, I'll put that on hold as I have other hobby projects going on. I picked up fishing again too. I'm just trying to stay occupied so I don't have too much alone time with my mind wandering. Regarding changes around the house, I got rid of lots of trinkets that reminded me of my wife. I got a body pillow for my bed, which surprisingly helped me relax more. I'm still in the guest room, but I might move back to the master bedroom soon. It doesn't make much difference at this point though, as I'm still having trouble sleeping. That's pretty much it. I've been reading more about failed relationships and got some good advice from recommended sites and a YouTube video. The guy in the video said that if someone moves on quickly after the breakup, they probably weren't the right one for you. It made me rethink how I saw my wife. I used to think she was the one, but maybe she wasn't if she could do all this. He also had some great insights about memories and accepting when someone you cared about becomes just a memory. That's all for now. It's not the happiest or most eventful update, but that's life, I guess.